Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The wind howled like a beast in pain. Snow flew across the empty town road, hitting her thin skin like tiny knives. She held her arms around her body, shivering, trying to move forward, step by step. Her name was Leora. She wasn't human. Her skin was a soft silver blue. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and her hair was like smooth white threads of ice. She looked fragile, tired, and lost. She had already knocked on 17 doors that night. Every time it was the same. The door would open, the person inside would see her face and then slam the door shut. Some screamed, some cursed. One threw a rock at her. No one helped. Now she stood in front of the 18th house, the last one on the street. It was a small wooden cabin with warm yellow lights inside. Smoke rose from its chimney. Leora looked at the house and then down at her feet. They were bare, red, numb. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Please, just one more try." She raised her weak hand and knocked. There was silence. Her knees shook. The cold was too much. Her vision was blurry. Then, the door opened slowly. A human man stood there. He looked to be in his early 30s, wearing a dark jacket, holding a steaming mug in one hand. His eyes met hers. He froze. For a long second, no one moved. Leora's lips trembled. I just need shelter. Just for the night. Please." He looked at her face, her glowing eyes, and her shaking form. His mind told him to shut the door like the others did. She was an alien. Unknown. Possibly dangerous, but his heart saw something else. She looked scared, she looked cold, she looked alone. The man stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Leora's eyes widened in surprise. She blinked, then stepped inside slowly, almost afraid it was a trap. But it wasn't. He closed the door behind her gently. The warmth of the house hit her like a wave. She almost fell, but he caught her by the arm and helped her to a small couch near the fireplace. "Sit," he said. "You'll freeze to death like that." She sat without a word. Her fingers shook as she held them near the fire. The man returned with a thick blanket and wrapped it around her. Then he brought her a hot drink. She took it with both hands and sipped it slowly. "What's your name?" he asked, sitting on a chair across from her. "Leora," she whispered. "I'm Evan," he replied. "You're not from here, are you?" She looked down, silent. The truth was too dangerous. If he knew what she was running from, he might throw her out too. Evan didn't push. He could see the fear in her eyes. "You don't have to talk now," he said softly. "Just rest." Leora looked at him with confusion. Why did you let me in?" Evan leaned back in his chair. "Because no one should be left out in the cold to die, human or alien." Tears formed in her glowing eyes. She didn't cry, but the pain in her chest was real. This was the first kindness she had seen in weeks. She didn't even know humans were capable of it. Time passed. The fire crackled gently. Evan brought her warm food. She ate slowly, carefully, like someone who had not eaten in days. Later, when she was clean and wrapped in fresh clothes, she sat on the couch with her hands on her lap. Evan sat nearby reading a book, but deep in her mind, fear still lived. She kept looking at the window, at the shadows outside. Her heart beat faster with each sound, because Leora wasn't just lost. She was being hunted. She pulled back her sleeve just a little. On her arm, under the skin, a small red mark pulsed faintly. It was not a tattoo. It was a tracker, a beacon. They would come. They always did. She closed her eyes. This house, this human, this was the 18th door. It might be her last chance to survive. The night outside was still cruel, but inside Evan's small house the warmth had started to melt the ice, not just on Leora's skin, but deep inside her heart. She didn't remember falling asleep, but when she opened her eyes she wasn't alone. Evan was there, sitting on the floor with a small tool in his hand, fixing something. A tiny robot spider walked around his feet. It beeped once and stared at her. "Morning," Evan said without looking up. Leora sat up fast, her eyes wide. Her first instinct was to run, but her legs didn't move. "I didn't lock the door," Evan said calmly. "If you wanted to leave, you could have left in the night." Leora blinked. That was strange. No chains, no force, no threats. "I thought you'd turn me in," she whispered. Evan looked up, confused. "Why would I?" "I'm not safe to be near," she said, her voice shaking. "Others like me. They get taken. Or worse." Evan stood, wiped his hands, and walked into the kitchen. He spoke while making breakfast. "Well, Leora, I don't care what you are," he said. "You were cold, hungry, and nearly dead. That's all I needed to know." She watched him crack eggs into a hot pan, like it was the most normal thing in the world. But it wasn't normal. Not for her. 17 doors had closed, not just doors, hearts, minds, worlds. But this man, this simple human named Evan, he didn't even ask her species, her planet, or her purpose, and that scared her more than the cold. "Are you always this strange?" she asked softly. He chuckled. "Only when I have guests from another planet." Leora gave the tiniest smile. It was the first in a long time, but deep inside the tracker under her skin started pulsing again. They were getting closer. She glanced toward the door. Evan noticed. "Expecting someone?" She shook her head, but it was a lie. Evan placed the plate of food in front of her and sat across the table. "You've been through something bad, haven't you?" Leora didn't answer, so he added, "You don't have to tell me, but if someone's chasing you, I have a place. Under the house, hidden room, no cameras, no signals." Her eyes snapped up. "Why do you have something like that?" "I've had visitors before," he said with a small grin. "Not all of them friendly. I learned to stay ready." Leora's hands tightened around her fork. Could he be trusted? Or was this a trap? Evan leaned forward and said gently, "Look, I'm not going to force you to talk, but I want to help. That's all." She stared at him. Nobody had ever said those words to her before. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll tell you." She lifted her sleeve slightly. The red glow blinked under her skin. Evan's face changed. He leaned closer. "Is that a tracker?" Leora nodded. "They put it inside me, back when they caught us." "Who's they?" She swallowed. "The Crimson Authority. They hunt my kind. I escaped from their ship, but they never stopped chasing. I thought this planet would be quiet." Evan's voice dropped. "If that thing is active, they'll come here." "I know." Evan looked around, thinking fast. "We need to remove it or hide it." "You can't," Leora said. "It's linked to my nerves. Cutting it out might kill me." Evan stood and walked toward a shelf, grabbing an old scanner and toolkit. "Then we'll find another way." Leora looked at him. This human who had no reason to help her, who risked his life by just letting her in, was now preparing to fight. For her. The sound of a drone buzzed faintly in the distance. She froze. Evan turned his head sharply. "That's not a bird." He pulled open a drawer and took out a small pulse gun. "Time to go underground." Leora stood slowly, still weak but now filled with something she thought she'd lost. Hope. As they climbed down into the hidden tunnel under his house, the snow outside began to fall heavier. Above them, the drone hovered silently. And far across the sky, a signal blinked. She had been found. The hidden room under Evan's house smelled like dust and oil. Old tools hung on the walls. A faded mattress lay on the floor. But to Leora, it felt like safety. For a few moments. Evan sealed the trapdoor above them and activated a static field generator. The faint hum filled the space, masking heat signatures and signals. "They won't find us easily now," he said. But Leora didn't look relieved. Her eyes stared at the blinking light on her arm. It had changed. The trackers, gone red, she whispered. They're closer than I thought. Evan walked to a corner and pulled out a dusty device. This scanner's old, but it still works. He pointed it at her arm. Numbers and symbols flickered on the screen. What does it say? She asked. They're inside the atmosphere, he replied slowly. Whoever's chasing you, they just arrived in orbit. Leora closed her eyes. They found me again, like always. Evan sat beside her. Why are they after you? What did you do? She hesitated. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, I didn't do anything. I was born. Evan frowned. My people are not fighters. We're healers, artists. But the Crimson Authority calls us dangerous. They say we carry old blood, something from the first race, the ancient ones who shaped galaxies. Evan blinked. You mean the ancients? Those are just myths. They're not, Leora said. And they fear what we might awaken. Suddenly, the scanner in Evan's hand beeped. Something was approaching. He jumped up, looked at the screen and said, A drone. It's right above the house. Leora stood. I should go. I'll run. They want me, not you. Evan shook his head. If you go out now, you'll die. I can't let you get hurt, she replied. You let me decide that. Before she could argue, a sharp noise echoed above, the sound of something landing on the roof. Evan quickly pressed a switch. A small monitor lit up, showing a black-eyed drone hovering above the cabin. A red symbol glowed on its body. Crimson Authority. They sent a hunter unit, Leora whispered. Evan grabbed his weapon. Then they're expecting resistance. The screen suddenly went black. They've jammed our tech, he said. Leora took a deep breath and walked to the wall, placing her hand on a strange piece of stone. It wasn't human-made. What's that? Evan asked. She didn't answer. The stone lit up under her fingers, reacting to her touch. A faint blue light glowed across the wall. I thought it was just rubble, Evan said in surprise. It's not, Leora said. This is ours. Ancient tech buried here, maybe from a forgotten crash long ago. I felt it when I came in. Suddenly her tracker blinked twice and then shut off. What did you do? Evan asked. I used this wall's field to scramble the signal, she said. But only for a few minutes. Evan stared at her. You're not just some refugee, are you? Leora looked at him, her eyes full of pain. I was never just anything. The house above shook. Something heavy had landed. They're here, Evan said, raising his weapon. We hold them off. Together. Leora stepped beside him. I can fight too. I know more than you think. Evan gave her a small smile. Then let's make the 18th door count. The air inside the tunnel grew heavy, not from dust or smoke, but from fear. Above them, heavy footsteps echoed through the wooden floorboards of Evan's house. The enemy was here, inside. Evan turned off every light in the underground room. They were now hidden in darkness, relying only on the faint hum of the old static field generator. Stay still, he whispered. Don't make a sound. Leora nodded, pressing her back against the cold wall. Her silver-blue skin shimmered faintly in the darkness. She closed her eyes and listened. Footsteps. 3. No. 4. Soldiers. Not human. She knew the rhythm of their boots. Crimson Commanders. Evan moved slowly to a small screen, a hidden camera feed. The black and white image showed tall figures in blood-red armor scanning every corner of his cabin. One carried a long spear-shaped scanner. The other held a black cube glowing red. They brought a signal booster, Leora whispered. They're trying to wake the tracker again. But you disabled it, Evan said. She looked at the glowing wall behind her. I scrambled the signal, but only for minutes. If they power up the cube fully, they'll relock onto me. Evan clenched his jaw. Then we stop them before that happens. Leora pulled out a tiny piece of crystal from her belt, a fragment from her past. "This might help," she said. "It's not a weapon, but it can confuse their machines if I charge it with energy." Evan nodded and ran toward his bench. "We don't have high power down here, but we have heat. Maybe that's enough." But before they could act, a sharp cracking sound echoed. The camera blinked and went black. Evan stood frozen. "They found the trap door," he said. Leora's breath caught in her throat. There was a pause. Then, boom. The floor above them exploded, inwards. Dust and wood rained down. A long metal spike stabbed through the ceiling of the tunnel. A deep voice followed. "Surrender the anomaly, or burn with her." Leora grabbed Evan's hand. "We run," she said. "Now." They rushed deeper into the underground path. The tunnel narrowed, darker, colder. It led to the old mine. The place Evan said was sealed for years. "Is this way safe?" she asked. He laughed bitterly. "No, but it's safer than facing those monsters." Behind them, red lights began to shine in the broken ceiling. The soldiers were descending. Suddenly, the ground shook. Part of the tunnel collapsed. Leora and Evan barely made it through the falling rocks, coughing in the dust. On the other side, they found a sealed metal door. Evan pulled a lever and pushed it open with all his strength. Inside was a forgotten mining station. Rusted machines, silent conveyor belts, cracked helmets. But something pulsed in the center of the room. Leora stepped toward it slowly. "It's not human," she said. A glowing orb sat in the machine's core, flickering blue and gold. Her fingers trembled as she reached out. The moment she touched it, the light shot upward. Evan shouted, "What are you doing?" Leora's voice was strange, calm, distant. "It's calling to my blood. This was left by the ancients." And then, the tracker in her arm turned off again. The lights died. The enemy's signal, gone. Evan blinked in confusion. "You shut it down?" Leora nodded slowly, her eyes glowing with new energy. "I didn't just escape their prison, Evan. I escaped with something they fear." Outside the sealed mine door, the soldiers stood in silence. One placed a hand to his ear. "Signal lost. Orders?" From the other end, a chilling voice replied, "Burn the town." Evan had never seen anything like it. The orb in the center of the mining station floated a few inches above its pedestal now, spinning slowly, glowing with soft waves of light, blue, gold, violet. It pulsed in sync with Leora's heartbeat. She stood in front of it, silent, her silver-blue skin glowing slightly under the light. Evan stepped closer. "Leora, what is this thing?" She didn't answer right away. Her hand hovered over the orb like she was listening to something he couldn't. "Here finally," she whispered. "It's a memory vault. From the ancients." Evan blinked. "Wait, you said those were just stories." She turned toward him. "For humans, maybe. But for my people, the ancients are real. We carry pieces of them inside us. That's why the Crimson Authority wants us dead." Evan stared at the orb again. "So, you're saying you have ancient blood?" "Not just blood," she said quietly. "We carry their code, a sleeping part of their minds." Suddenly the orb pulsed. Light filled the room. Then images, floating in the air, a great starship falling into flames, alien cities drowning, beings of light, tall, powerful, peaceful, vanishing one by one. And then darkness. Evan felt chills run through his body. Leora's eyes filled with tears. That was the fall of the first ones. My ancestors watched it happen. This orb recorded their last message. One word echoed through the chamber in a deep, powerful voice. "Protect her." Evan turned. "Was that about you?" Leora shook her head. "I think it meant protect what I carry. The last piece of their knowledge, the last hope." Suddenly, the chamber trembled, not just from the memory, but from something above. Evan checked the seismic gauge, explosions and on the surface. He looked at her. They're not just here for you anymore, they're attacking the town. Leora gasped. Because they lost my signal. They're wiping the area. Evan grabbed his pulse rifle and slammed his fist into the emergency control panel. The backup lights flickered on. Then we stop hiding. Leora looked at him. What can two people do against an army? Evan stepped toward the ancient machine. You said this place was more than just a vault. She nodded slowly. There might be a defense core, hidden deep in the mine, but it's locked. And it's old. It needs energy. A lot. Evan looked at the old generator in the corner. I can hook it to my power pack, but it'll only run once. If it fails, we're done. Leora walked beside him. Then we don't fail. Working fast, Evan connected wires, soldered connections, and braced the cables. Sparks flew. The orb brightened again. A small pedestal rose from the ground. Leora placed her hand on it and screamed. Her body froze as light poured into her through her. Her mind filled with voices, old and deep, full of wisdom and pain. Evan grabbed her, but her body glowed so brightly he couldn't touch her. Then it stopped. Leora collapsed into his arms. He held her close. Leora! She opened her eyes slowly. It's active. The mine is awake. Behind them, the walls of the chamber shifted. Stone slid away, revealing old armor, tall, silver suits, ancient weapons, untouched for thousands of years. Evan's jaw dropped. Is that ancient tech? Leora said weakly. They left it here, waiting for someone with the blood. Evan pulled her to her feet. Then we make our stand. Outside, the crimson soldiers marched toward the town center. Inside, a human and an alien girl, one with ancient blood, one with a stubborn heart, prepared to fight back with forgotten power. The old mine was no longer silent. It hummed like a waking beast. Ancient machines clicked alive. Lights glowed under stone floors. Echoes of the past whispered through the metal walls. Leora stood in the center, her body still weak, but her presence was stronger than ever. Evan loaded the last of the ancient rifles. It was heavier than any weapon he had ever used, but it felt right in his hands. Above them, the town was on fire. Smoke rose into the sky. The Crimson Authority's dropships circled like vultures. Their soldiers marched through the streets, dragging people from homes. Not searching, cleansing. A frightened child cried. A woman screamed. A gunshot silenced a man who resisted. Evan watched from the mine's scanner screen. His jaw clenched. They're slaughtering them. Leora touched the glowing stone beside her. If we activate the vault's full defense system, we can stop them, but it needs more energy. He nodded. I'll give it. She turned fast. What? Evan pulled the cables from the generator and connected them to a small port behind his collarbone. Military experiment, biofusion cell. My body creates power when under stress. I was part of a project long ago. Leora stepped forward. But if you push that energy through this old system, it could kill you. He smiled gently. So could sitting here doing nothing. She grabbed his hand. Don't. Please. His eyes met hers. Leora, you said this vault carries the last memory of the ancients. If that dies with you, then they win. She looked down, trembling. You're not just a survivor, he whispered. You're a key. Leora placed her forehead to his. Then let me carry the weight too. She pressed her palm into the stone pedestal beside him. A second connection lit up. I'll take half, she said. No, he shouted. You're still healing. It's my history, she replied. I won't let you burn for my past. The machine roared to life. Light shot through both of them, blue and gold and white. The walls cracked from pressure. Symbols lit across the chamber, words from a forgotten language. Above, the soldiers paused. The earth beneath their feet shook. The dropships lost control, spinning off course. From the mine, a beam of light exploded upward, cutting through snow and fire. Inside the vault, Leora screamed in pain, her body glowing too bright to see. Evan gritted his teeth, blood running from his nose, but he didn't let go. The system finally accepted the power. A deep voice echoed from the walls. Defense protocol. Final flame. Outside, the snow turned to steam. A wave of energy rushed out from the mine and swept through the town. The Crimson soldiers were hit first, thrown into the air, weapons fried, armor cracked. The townspeople screamed and ducked, but the light passed over them like wind. No one human was harmed, only the invaders. In the sky, the Crimson ship exploded, mid-air, ripped apart by an invisible force. Silence fell. Then, slowly, cheers rose from the surviving villagers. Back underground, the machine dimmed. Evan fell to the floor, barely breathing. Leora crawled to him. No, stay with me. His skin was pale, his breathing shallow. I told you not to take it all, she whispered. Evan looked up, weak but alive. I didn't. You did, she smiled through tears. You stubborn human, he coughed. I like to think I'm brave. She leaned down and kissed his forehead. You are. Above them, the 18th door still stood. Behind it was the start of a new world. Snow fell quietly now. Where fire had once roared and smoke had poisoned the sky, there was only soft white silence. The town was still, not destroyed, reborn. Children peeked from broken windows. Women held their breath. Old men stepped into the open, hands shaking. The enemy was gone. The sky was clear, and from the center of the mine's hill, where light had once exploded like a star, 2 figures now rose slowly from the smoke. A human and an alien. Evan limped forward, supported by Leora. His face was pale, but he was alive. Leora's glow had dimmed, but her eyes were bright with quiet strength. The townspeople gathered. No one said a word at first. Then a young girl stepped forward. She was no older than 10. She looked up at Leora with wide eyes. Are you the one who stopped them? Leora knelt down. No, she said softly. We stopped them, together. The girl looked at Evan. Is he your human? Leora smiled gently. He's the 18th door. The crowd murmured. The old mayor stepped forward. That's what people are calling it now. The story of the alien girl who knocked on every door and one human opened his. Evan chuckled weakly. Didn't expect to become a story. You became more than that, Leora whispered. They helped the villagers rebuild. Evan rewired the town's power grid using pieces of the ancient tech. Leora healed wounds with her strange, glowing touch. Where people once feared her, now they waited in line for her help. One old man who had slammed his door in her face weeks ago dropped to his knees. Forgive me, he whispered. Leora helped him up. There is nothing to forgive. Fear is hard to fight. She no longer hid her red mark. The tracker had been burned out. She wore it as a scar, a reminder of her journey, of every door slammed, in her face, and the one that didn't. The news spread across nearby colonies. An alien and a human had fought side by side, saved a town, used ancient power not to destroy, but to protect. The Crimson Authority didn't return. Their systems were broken by the vault's energy wave, and something in their network whispered of a warning. The ancient code lives, and it stands with humans. One morning, Evan stood at the edge of the hill with Leora, watching the sunrise. Will you stay? He asked. She looked at the golden sky. If I leave, it's not to run. It's to help others like me, but I'll return. He looked at her carefully. You promise? She smiled. You opened the 18th door, Evan. You gave me life. Wherever I go, I'll always come back. To you. She reached into her coat and placed something in his hand. A crystal key softly glowing. What's this? It opens the vault again. Only someone with a human heart can use it now. He nodded, his eyes glassy. Then I'll guard it. She stepped back, her ship waiting beyond the trees. As it rose into the sky, the townspeople gathered and waved. She looked down at them, and then at the house where it all began. A single wooden door, a little cracked, still standing. The 18th door. The one that changed everything.